Good evening, everyone. Greeting from Brisbane, Australia. A happy trekking to all of you. 2022 and New Year is already gone. Now we are now on January the 10th, 2023. It is the beginning of the month. So we forget about 2022. It was last year. Now don't you know the price of gold today, January 10, 2023, the price of gold is 60,259.79. I'm going to go to the world markets and I'm going to update you, Mr. Buyer. Just bear with me. Okay. Now the price of gold is a little bit down. It's 60 to 38.56. The per ounce is 1873.63 per ounce. Use your calculator. I'm also educating at the same time. So when you see on the world market per ounce, use your calculator to multiply that 32.50. 32.15 equals 60,000 plus. Now the price of gold, it varies every half an hour. So now, the world is on panic because we are under inflation. The other day, I was watching kitco.com. I'm very interested about this gold movement. There was an interview. Gary Wagner, he said that there is a possibility that the gold will turn to 1,900 per ounce. Okay? So 1,009 per ounce, Mr. Buyer. Okay? 1,900 per ounce, 32.15. Could be 61,750. Now, previous year, I warned everyone, that was 2019, 2020, and 21. Bank now, secure now, while the price is still affordable. Because there would be a prediction that the gold will turn to $3,000 per ounce. That was previous year. But nobody believes Wilhelmina. Nobody. Now what happened today? The gold traders are really struggling because there's no way you can get cheap price. Now there was a German buyer he said he's a buyer. This is how tricky is the joker broker. He said that he is a buyer and the gold will deliver to Istanbul and bring the gold in the airport. We will assay the gold and then we will pay after assay. And I told this German young man, I think you do the wrong thing. There is no way you can take the gold out of the country from Africa without certificate of clearance. There is no way you can get gold in Africa without ownership, that you have paid the gold. There is no way. And there is no way you can get the gold and diamond without custom clearance. On diamond, you need to get the Kimberley certificate that the diamond is free of blood diamond. In gold, you have to have commercial invoice. You need to assay the gold from the country of origin so that you will see the carats and the purity. Now you're gonna say, well, Amina, what carat gold in Africa? You're not paying attention. I'm going to repeat. The gold in Africa, 22.54, sometimes 22.80, equivalent to 23. The purity is 96, 97, 98. It depends on every bar. Right. You're gonna say, Wilhelmina, the origin of the gold. You have to listen to this video. After my explanation, you click below, it says show more. You will see the full corporate offer. You subscribe because time to time, I always update my video. When I upload the video, then you will be notified. Subscribe and give comment whether you learn from my video or not. Right. This is for you, Mr. Buyer and Mr. Broker. Okay? Now, you're gonna say, well, Amina, I wanna buy gold. Bring it to Istanbul or bring it to Dubai. My question when you come to me, very, very simple. How did you get my number? Oh, well, Amina, I watch your YouTube. Okay. What did you learn out of my YouTube? Did you really read the full corporate offer? And then you're going to say, that really, go back and read. Then that's a time we can do business. So now, we are now 2023, Mr. Buyer, please. If you're really, really, real buyer, you don't need to be excited to meet this lady. You need to read whether you are qualified or not, whether you have available fund, whether you can bring the gold to the destination. I'm sure, Mr. Buyer, you are buying gold in Africa to resell it to your end customer. It's none of our business. It is your business. Our business to deal with you. We have the gold. You taste it. You pay for it. The seller will give you all the export documentation. It is in here. On this video, I will enumerate. Once your payment would be cleared, bank to bank, you will get commercial invoice, asset report, certificate of clearance, certificate that the gold is free of illegal activities, ownership, custom clearance, declaration that the gold is free of illegal activities, declaration that the gold is free of child labor. Did the broker explain to you, Mr. Buyer? Nah. Brokers from group to group, they just collect information, sanitizing. I don't buy sanitation. I don't. I want to see the credibility of the buyer because we are credible. My head office is credible. My head office hired Wilhelmina in order to interview Mr. Buyer. You're just like applying for a job, right? To you, you're applying to buy this precious item. I'm sure I'm going to interview you when you come. You are on WhatsApp, you are on Skype, you are on LinkedIn, you are on Facebook. Read it. Don't rush. Digest it properly, then you come back to Wilhelmina. I know you have been window shopping. Yeah, I know that. It's okay. If you window shop, compare pricing to pricing, good luck. You go to Kampala, good luck. You go to Nairobi, good luck. You go to Ghana, good luck. To us, we don't chase you. You chase us because you are needing the supply, and I'm the only person who show my face. This is my office, Mr. Baya. I am a digital extension office of the seller in Africa, Conakry, Mali, and Sierra Leone. I work 7 days a week because we have a time difference. Here in Australia, the time is 10:24. In your end, whether you are in Dubai, it's afternoon. Whether you are in Africa, it's morning. I'm gonna have a look on my time because I just come back from my trip. November. Just a moment, I'm gonna look at the time. Now, in Conakry, the time is 12:25 in the afternoon. In Dubai, it's 4:25 in the afternoon. In Bamako, Mali, is 12:25. In San Francisco, is 4:25 in the morning. In Houston, Texas, is 6:25 in the morning. In Florence, is 1:25 in the afternoon. In Berlin, 1:25 in the afternoon. In Toronto, 7:25 in the morning. In Dubai, as I've said, 4:25 in the afternoon. Right. So, Mr. Buyer, I have here the world time. I know the time. Now, here in Australia, I live in Brisbane, Queensland. It's 10:26 in the evening, January the 10th. Now, Mr. Buyer, tell me what can I do for you? Mhm. I know you've been searching. I know you've been looking for gold. I know. Tell me, Mr. Buyer, what we can do for you. Yeah, tell me. You just like to apply for a job. You're applying to buy. So, in job term, you're applying just like before. When I apply for a job here in Brisbane, I have to tell who am I. I have. So that I would be hard. Right. Mr. Buyer, you are applying to buy this commodity. My question is, Mr. Buyer, nice meeting you. Open your camera. I want to interview you. Right on the record. Then I'm gonna ask, thank you very much for finding Wilhelmina. What can I do for you, Mr. Buyer? This is my question. Oh, Wilhelmina, I'm looking for gold. I watch your video. Which video? Because I have different video. Mhm. Oh, about gold. My question is, did you listen the video thoroughly? Not really. This is what the buyer was telling me last night. I told the buyer, go back and read. So, if you're gonna say not really to me, you're not a buyer, really. You are pretending to be a buyer. Because if I am a buyer, I have to read, I have to analyze, I have to digest it. Don't you know, Mr. Buyer? Seller didn't even teach me. No, seller didn't even told me what necessary requirement. I was the one who asked the seller, and I meet the seller on the ground. They hired me. Of course, I have to know what I'm selling. Mhm. So that when you come, you ask question, I can give you the answer. Now the question and answer is in front of you. Very detailed, very extensive explanation. I put the taxes from Mali 7%, Conakry 6.5, Sierra Leone 6.5. Now, Mr. Buyer, because the gold is getting higher and higher, just a moment. Okay, I'm gonna look at again. Okay, the price of gold is a little bit down a few hundred, 60,221. A minute ago when I was talking in front of you, Mr. Buyer, is 60,259.58 1 hour ago. Right. This is the world market demand, Mr. Buyer. This is already refined. Now, you're gonna say, well, Amina, why the gold is 60,000? That is refined. That is the world market price. Now, Mr. Buyer, without the Dore bar, there would be no 99.99. If there is no Dore bar, there would be no jewelry. If there is no Dore bar, your business would not function. Gold has many uses, Mr. Buyer. Either you're gonna make into spare parts on mobile phone. Either you're gonna make into full step. Either you're gonna make into jewelry, industrial, medical uses. So gold has many uses, Mr. Buyer. You have to do the research before you travel to Africa, Mr. Buyer. Okay. Now you're gonna say, well, Amina, what is the price? All right. What is the discount, well, Amina? That is a very good question. Our selling price is, the world market, 60,000. On 60,000, I'll see because the gold is ups and down. It changes every half an hour, right? Now, the price of gold is 60,232, okay, per ounce, per kilo. Our selling price on 22 to 23 is $55,000 per kilo, which is 8% discount from the world market called LBMA. Now that 55,000, don't panic, Mr. Buyer. I will give you a very good price because I am the boss. The head office will listen to Wilhelmina. Mhm. Because I'm the one who do the marketing on behalf of the head office. Mr. Buyer, don't be panic. If the price is 55 because that is less 8%. Mr. Buyer, tell me how much you can afford to buy this precious metal. Are you really a buyer or what? Or you just window shopping, comparing prices to prices? Now, Mr. Buyer, I know you are a gold trader and you're gonna resell it, the gold, to India because Indian is a gold lover, and you're gonna resell it to America, to the refinery, or you're gonna resell it to Turkey, or you're gonna bring it to Oman, or you're gonna bring it to Australia, or you're gonna bring it to Dubai. It's up for you to do the business. We are here to supply your needs. You're gonna say, Wilhelmina, the gold is too expensive. Well, you are buying expensive item. So if you're gonna complain about expensive, to me you cannot afford to pay. Why? Because when you come to me, Mr. Buyer, I am going to question you a lot of question, and if you cannot give me the answer, I don't think so you're gonna be qualified. I know you've been window shopping from broker to broker. That is fine. There was an American guy and also a German and also from Holland. They were talking to me. They were asking question. 2023, I'm no longer answering fake buyers pretending to be a buyer. Now, if you are listening to this person, but I'm not going to mention their name so that they would not be embarrassed. I know you've been watching Wilhelmina and you have been sucking information. You keep on asking question. My seller would not give you the answer. And I meet you in Dubai. Don't you know that? I met this guy in Dubai. He said that he's a buyer. In fact, I introduced this gentleman to an owner of the factory. And also this guy from Holland, he come to the hotel, we have a more coffee. And he said he's a buyer. I even advised him, you have a limited cash. He wanted to buy 1 kilo and I told him, it's not worth it for you. Because I do charge my services. I do. I am not free. The reason why I put everything, because we want the buyer to understand. No such seller explaining to you like this. That's why the seller says to me, well, Amina, we hired you because you are well experienced. And I've been in marketing for 36 years, buying and selling exactly the same. There is no F and there is no but. So most of the broker, you don't like Wilhelmina. I'm sorry if I'll say to you guys, you're a joker broker. Why? Because you are not paying attention. You're not. If you are my student in university, I'm going to give you F. Because when I was at school, I never ask question. I listen, I jot down, and I did whatever my professor was telling me, I have to jot down, and then I have to review it. Because my professor is really very strict. I learned from my professor. Now at the same time, I'm teaching you, Mr. Buyer. I'm not teaching the joker broker. You come to my platform, you learn, Mr. Joker Broker. Yeah. We prepared to deal with the buyer. Now, Mr. Buyer, going back to the pricing. Don't be panicked. I will make sure that you will get the gold. Mr. Buyer, I do charge my services. When I accompany you to Africa. Now, you're going to see, Wilhelmina, we want tons of gold. Okay? Mali have tons of gold. Conakry have tons of gold. In Sierra Leone, they have tons of gold. But they would not tell you they have tons of gold because they can think that you cannot afford. To me, if you're going to say, I want to buy 1 ton of gold, then I start to query, how are you able to pay? Because tons of gold is more than $1 million. More than. It's just 10 figures. And if you cannot convince Wilhelmina, to me, you're not a buyer. I encourage you instead. I am encouraging you to read first the full corporate offer, and I encourage you to start a trial. That is the best advice. Start a trial of 10 kilos. In order to test our credibility. Then, when you're satisfied on 10 kilos, then that is the time you increase 50 kilos, 100 kilos, etc., etc. Now, you're gonna say, yeah, well, I mean, I was right. Well, I mean, I wanna buy gold brings to brings. That is a very good question. Now, Mr. Buyer, you have an account to brings. Brings is a logistic. That is fine if you're gonna use brings, as long as you pay the gold. Because the head office, my seller, I already convinced my seller, in Conakry, they will deal brings. The instructions of my head office is like this. We will consider Mrs. Ford because of you, and the buyer has to sign a contract with us, which is correct, and the buyer will come to the office, inspect the gold, then taste the gold, the buyer pay bank to bank, then the seller will clear his payment 3 working days because of the cash inflow. Did someone tell you, Mr. Buyer, that you need to pay bank to bank because of the cash inflow reset? Cash inflow means that your payment has to be registered, that the seller received your payment in order to tell his country that he's going to apply a certificate of clearance. So your payment will say, okay, this is Mr. So-and-so, he transferred the payment. I therefore apply for the certificate of clearance in order for me to export. This is what the cash inflow means. Right? Seller would not explain to you like this. I'm the one who explained just like an elementary. Okay, so after that, 3 working days, then after the clearance, that is the time the seller apply all the export documentation. So you're gonna stay in Africa another 8 to 9 days, because 3 days to transfer your payment to clearance, then another 3 days to prepare export documentation, because Africa is a very, very slow process. So you have to be patient. I've been to Africa, I know, that's why I'm sharing you. So make it 8 to 9 days maximum. So now, Mr. Buyer, because 2023, I suggest, do not leave the country unless the gold leave and ship it to your destination. You have to look at all the export documentation. That is why I am charging you, because I need to be in the office. I need to be with you, because some seller are careless. Yeah? Seller in Ghana, careless. One seller that I fired, I fired the seller because of the carelessness. So that is the reason why you guys are scared that you need to do brings to brings. There is no issue as long as you pay the gold. Then the seller will hand over the gold to brings. You have to pay the logistic to brings, and you need to insure. I think 2 years ago I called the brings in Conakry. I introduced myself that I'm Wilhelmina. I'm the seller's marketing consultant. Can you explain to me, Mr. Manager, what is your procedure? You know, the procedure is like this. As long as the buyer and the seller have an agreement, Mrs. Ford, we will come to the office of the seller. We will inspect the gold on behalf of the buyer. As long as the buyer pay the gold to the seller, then all the export documentation, we will receive it. Then we will ship the gold to the buyer's destination. We charge the services. This is what the Brinks was saying. Yeah. So you guys say, oh, Brinks to Brinks, I think you don't know what they're talking. Now, on my platform on Facebook, I did put Brinks Conakry. There is no brinks in Mali. They have their own shipping. I think there is Vanguard or G4S in Mali. Now, talking to Mali, there are three refineries in Mali. I think three or four currently. Unicorn Gold Refinery, DNGM Government Refinery, KMR, and Marina. Now, these three refinery are private. KMR is the biggest refinery. It's a 500 meters away from the international airport. I was there. And Marina the owner used to work at DNGM, according to my seller. So, of course, this is business. So, Marina, the local person, has a partner, I think Chinese or Indian. They open a refinery. They are buying gold and selling to their customer. So, the Marina refining the gold from Mali into 99.99. So, do not be a fool that, oh, I want to buy 99.99. You cannot. Because when you buy 99.99, there is no discount. Why this KMR from Italy, they opened their refinery, they opened their business in Mali. So meaning to say there is business. KMR was given a government incentives, tax incentives. And the government is part of KMR. Of course, when you come to the country, there's always a joint venture. So I'm not going to elaborate that. So my seller asked the gold to the government refinery, what is called DNGM. Those three refineries, they are just new refineries. DNGM was there from the beginning. When the gold was being discovered by King Mansa Musa, right? The government refinery, they already exist because they have to market their gold, so they have to create their own refinery called DNGM. Go on my platform. I put everything about Mali, the refinery, the building of DNGM. I put as well Conakry. The gold has to be assay at Central Bank. In Sierra Leone, GGO. Right. Now, Mr. Baya, I think I did explain to you thoroughly. And as I've said to you, Mr. Baya, we are now on 2023. We don't sell C.I.F, cost insurance and freight only. We don't entertain LC. We don't entertain standard letter of credit. We don't entertain escrow. We don't entertain MT799. Meaning to say, you have a different cash flow. You have a deficiency of cash flow. In Africa, Mr. Buyer, cash transaction. Why cash transaction? May I explain to you just like an elementary? When my seller, this is what my seller was saying, Madam, this foreigner thinking they can get gold cheap price. When we apply to the government as a mining license, it costs them 70,000. Why? They have to hire the gemologist in order to inspect the land and how much the gold deposit. Of course, they have to pay the gemologist, their engineer. And then they have to register their export license. You know how much export license to pay according to my seller? They paid, I think, $10,000 to $20,000. So need a lot of paperwork, and the seller will remit the royalty to their country. But you have no idea, Mr. Baya. You're only thinking about how much is my profit. I'll come to Africa. I look for cheap price. How much my profit? Do I become millionaire? This is always you do, Mr. Baya. I know that. So, if you travel to Africa unprepared, and then you want to become instant millionaire, I doubt. You will only become instant millionaire when you have this capital. And when you buy constantly, yes, you become multimillionaire because you are buying money to make money. There is a profit. Yes, I'm telling you. My seller would not explain to you like this. My seller says, okay, here's the gold. Taste the gold. Put the money. Pay it. Then we'll do the export documentation. The seller would not explain to you. I know because I just been to Africa. I was the one who educate the buyer. That's why the buyer is paying me. Mr. Buyer, my services is not for free. You're lucky to have me, Mr. Buyer. Information worth $1 million. You must remember. My knowledge is more than $1 million. There is no joker broker explain to you, Mr. Buyer, like this. Nah, I feel sorry for you guys because I want to correct, I want to remove all the dirty tricks. Sometimes buyers and sellers are doing dirty tricks as well. Now, going back to the shipping, Mr. Buyer, make sure that you are really well prepared and do not travel without Wilhelmina. I'm telling you, you need to be with Wilhelmina. Why? Because I have already bad experience. I send a buyer to Africa and there's a lot of problem. But if I am with you, Mr. Buyer, I can find a backup. That is why I do charge my services. Mr. Buyer, you're buying $500,000 here. How much you can afford? My services is peanuts. It covers my travel cost, my travel expenses to be with you. You know my buyer from United States recently, and you know what she said? Mrs. Ford, I paid you. It's worth it. And your services is cheap. I entertain them. And they don't feel bored. Because the seller, Mr. Buyer, they would not entertain you at all. They wouldn't. They're gonna say, "Oh, I'm coming. I'm sending the driver." This is the the bad habit of the seller. I'm coming. I'm coming. I said, "What time?" I'm coming. Appointment 9 o'clock. They show up 12 o'clock. So this video, Mr. Buyer, gives you a knowledge. Then, you know, Africa is traffic, right? And I said to the driver, you leave the office 2 hours before you pick us. Because of the traffic, which is I was there, 2022. It's really a traffic. So I said to my driver, next time, you wake up early because Mrs. Ford and the buyer, I'm very, very thorough. This is Australian way of doing business. Appointment 10 o'clock must be 10 o'clock. So I said to the driver, come early. I'll buy you breakfast in the hotel so that the buyer would be happy. So the driver is happy with me. The seller didn't do that. Yeah, I always feed the driver. That is why I do charge my services. In spite of that, some of the money I'll throw it back to the buyer. So at the end of the day, Mr. Buyer, you're a winner. Now going back to the discount, you're gonna say, well, Amina, give me a good discount. What discount are you asking for? Our selling price is $55,000. Now, Mr. Buyer, because you're paying my services, I will negotiate my seller to come down the price. I might be able to give you $53,000. But don't bank on it because you have not proven to Wilhelmina. I'm just only giving you preempt conversation. So, if the price of gold is $60,000, Mr. Buyer, of course, to cover my transport, Mr. Buyer, the airfare is now getting expensive. The hotel, the food, the taxi, and my services is non-refundable. When I'm going to charge you is non-refundable. Whether success or not. That is the reason why, Mr. Buyer, I have to interview you. Yeah? Because I don't want to waste my time. And don't waste my time, Mr. Buyer. Because money is really, really high demand. Gold is cash business. Gold is money, solid money, versus your paper money. Now, Mr. Buyer, I know you've been duped before. You went to Kampala, you went to Nairobi, you went to Ghana, and I was even scam in Ghana. Now, the meaning of scam, Mr. Buyer, is like this. If you're professional, go and look at the dictionary. What is the meaning of scam? Dishonest, liars. Seller can be liars, seller can be dishonest, and you, Mr. Buyer, also dishonest. Why? You're asking too much, and you did not complete the contract. So therefore, vice versa. Well, I mean, I would not be dishonest because I'm not going to receive $1,000,000. I only receive my services. I only charge you my services to accompany you bank to bank. You have to send the money to Wilhelmina in order for me to buy a ticket to accompany you. You're gonna say, well, Wilhelmina, I don't want to pay upfront. There is no upfront. There's none. You have to pay for it. You go to your lawyer's office, Mr. Buyer, ask for advice. When you get out from the office, you're gonna be invoiced. I go to my lawyer for advice. After I talk to my lawyer, the secretary give me the invoice, $250 for 30 minutes. Now I'm talking to you for long hours. I'm giving you all the information free already online, but when I travel with you, it's no longer for free. You're gonna say, well, Amina, how much you're gonna charge? Well, I'm asking you how much capacity you can afford to pay the gold. Then we will discuss this when you come for conference. Understand, Mr. Baya? So, I think I already explained to you, Mr. Baya, that about drinks and about the price and about the procedure is in front of you. You're gonna say, well, Amina, is there any drinks in Sierra Leone? Well, that is your job. You have to search Brinks if you have an account to Brinks. Seller has his own shipping agent. Now, in Mali, my seller, his shipping agent is a big company. I talked to the shipping agent, and the gold of Mali is on the security company with SKR. But I'm not going to release the SKR. I will only attach the SKR, Mr. Buyer, when you send an LOI. Attention to Wilhelmina, you send me your business registration, you send me your importation license, you send me a copy of your passport, and you show to Wilhelmina that you have available fund $1,000,000 or $5 million or $10 million. Then I will release the SKR. Why? In the past, a lot of joker broker desanitized the SKR. And you know there's a lot of criminal activities on the ground. Either the international buyers are hold upper. There's a big syndicate in this gold industry. They're wearing nice suit. That is the reason why the instruction of my seller, Wilhelmina, do not release the SKR. You only release the SKR when the buyer is really thoroughly validated by you. Now, not all seller will put the gold to the security company because it is very costly. Very costly. In Mali, it's a big organization. They have tons of gold. Tons. So, do not expect that every seller, they have SKR. No. The seller in Conakry, they don't put gold to the security company. They have their own private vault. They keep, because I was on their vault, they keep the gold boxes and boxes. They only bring the gold to the office to show to the buyer 5 kilos, 10 kilos. But when you make an order big quantity, yes, I was been allowed to see boxes and boxes. Okay? When I was in Sierra Leone, I was also allowed to see boxes and boxes of gold. Now in Mali, Mr. Buyer, I have the SKR. I cannot release the SKR unless you are really a buyer. I don't release the SKR for 10 kilos. No. You make a reservation 10 kilos. When we arrive, then you inspect the 10 kilos. then that's the time you see the gold. Go on my page. There was a buyer from United States. There were two of them. They inspect the gold. They were surprised. Oh, 1 kg is too heavy. One partner said, oh, this gold is 2 kilos. You can see the 2 kilos and 1 kilo difference. So that is how I do the marketing. Mr. Buyer, you are the most lucky person watching me. This is my office. This is my online office. This is my home base office. You're gonna say, well, Amina, where's your office? In Africa. I will determine which seller I'm going to put you after I interview you live video call. So, Wilhelmina, where's your seller's office? In Mali. Wilhelmina, where's your seller's office on diamond? In Sierra Leone. Wilhelmina, where is your seller's office, diamond and gold? In Conakry. Not here. I don't have gold here. I only interview you, I gather your vital information, then that is the time I will advise the head office to proceed because you already meet the criteria. Wilhelmina is the one who will advise the head office to proceed or not to proceed. I have the power to reject you, and I have the power to give you a very good discount, and I have a power to say yes or no. Thank you very much, Mr. Buyer. A pleasant good morning. It's already evening here. It's almost 11 o'clock. But don't worry. Talk to Wilhelmina. I always close 2 o'clock in the morning because of the time difference. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant good morning and good afternoon to you, whoever you are, and good evening here from Brisbane, Queensland, Australia.